I'm so happy to have with me Ilyse on the Happy Frank podcast. I've worked with Ilyse over my personal issues and I've uncovered a lot of things. And I told myself when I started the podcast, I really have to bring Ilyse along because people need to hear how what Ilyse does and how she helps with so many people. So welcome, Ilyse.
Thank you so much, Kwan, for having me. I'm very, very excited to be here.
Yes, and all the way in New York City too, so far away.
Mhm.
Yeah, so Elise, you know, I thought a lot about so my experience with Elise was this. I was having some issues about a lot of things. And when I worked with Elise, she helped me uncovered so many things that I I thought I could think my way out of my problem, but I could not. And I'm not sure what happened. We did a hypnosis, right? We definitely did hypnosis, Elise, right?
Yes, yes, we did.
Yes, yes.
We also
And
used you did a subconscious shift call as
yeah,
well, which accesses the subconscious mind. Yeah. Hmm.
and it's just every time I think back about my experience with Elise and so much that came out during the call, like I think one part of it was that it was such a relief because I had this going on all this while in my life that I wasn't even aware of, and then Elise helped me saw that, and I guess from that place onward, I made peace with that, and that
Mm.
helped a lot with the healing process. So, Elise, maybe you would like to talk a little bit about hypnosis and how does it work with the subconscious mind?
Sure. And I before I do, I just want to acknowledge you. You really did the work. It's one thing to go to someone for help, but you did the work. It takes time, and it takes a lot of patience, and it takes a lot of self-love and compassion to transform. And you really took the time and the effort to do that, and you had an incredible transformation. So I'm really thrilled for you, but I really want to acknowledge you for doing the work.
Thank you so much. It was actually it was painful when I found out that problem, but at the same time, it was so
Mm.
freeing. Like it was
Mm.
just whoa, such a big release.
Yes, we pulled out stories deep, deep from your past that you had completely forgotten. And that's really the power of the subconscious shift method that I'm so excited about.
And that's where that is the subconscious, right? That is the
Yes,
subconscious we're talking
yes.
about.
Hmm.
And
The subconscious, I'm
yes, how
sorry,
would
go
you
ahead.
no, how would you explain it? Like what is subconscious? Like to maybe to some of our listeners here who may not know, like is there a good
Well,
analogy to it? Like what is it?
yeah, that's a really, really good question. Well, we have a conscious mind,
Mm-hmm.
and our conscious mind is basically are related to the part of our brain that's our prefrontal cortex,
Mm-hmm.
and it is very analytical. It's where we make our judgments, but like you said, you can't think your way through
No, no,
pain
definitely
and
not.
suffering. You cannot, right?
Yes.
The thing about the subconscious mind is that it controls 95% of our behavior. So if we have a behavior, say for instance, we are wanting to start a business and we're
Mm-hmm.
so excited and we have all our ducks in a row and we are really good at what we do, but whenever we show up to actually do the work, we either procrastinate or
Mm.
distract ourselves in some way, or self-sabotage, or we get caught up in perfectionism. So those kinds of behavior is is actually the subconscious mind at play. And so one would have some sort of story that is imprinted in the subconscious mind that is buying into acting out in form of procrastination, that is acting out in the form of resistance.
Mm.
And usually it relates to a particular incident or story that happened in our childhood. And the the wonderful thing about from the ages of 1 to 7, the brain is in a theta brainwave state, and it doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination. So that's why children are so amazing at that age, because they
Right.
have imaginary friends and they have a rich imaginary
Yes.
life, because they're living in a theta brainwave state. They don't know the difference between reality and imagination.
Right.
However, when
Okay.
something happens, because children think everything bad that happens is their fault, they're
Mm.
responsible.
Mm.
So let's say something happened. In my case, my dog got sick when I was 8 years old and ended up dying.
Mm-hmm.
And I, whatever belief or logic we have at that age, it becomes embedded in our subconscious. So in my case, that was the story that I needed to uncover for myself. So in my case, I was trying to build a business, but I just couldn't make anything. I just couldn't get any traction no matter what I did.
Mm-hmm.
And it was only until I uncovered, which I completely forgot about, my dog that had died, who I nursed, and I took responsibility for her dying. I thought it was my fault.
Oh,
And
right.
so
Okay.
what I equated was her 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 dying to, so when I went out into, rather, when I went out into the world trying to help people, I
Oh,
equated
okay.
my helping people to something bad
Oh,
happening.
yes. I can see how that backfires terribly, right?
Yes. So that was the dominating subconscious belief that I had no idea was running the show. So that was causing the perfectionism, the self-sabotage, the the resistance, and it was just also on an energetic level preventing me from attracting the people that I wanted to attract, and also having the success in my business that I wanted to attract.
Right.
So
Because you have
I,
so much fear in helping people.
yeah, I thought that, I mean, on a subconscious belief, I thought that if I were to help people, they would die. So my
Mm.
not helping them was my way of keeping them alive and protecting them. It
Oh
was the
my
logic of an
gosh.
8-year-old, but because the subconscious dominates 95% of our behavior, that
Mm.
was running the show. And until we uncover these deep-seated beliefs, those patterns are never going to change. We're never really going to accomplish what we want in our life. And it's very liberating when we do, though, as you experienced,
Mm.
and as I experienced too. And so that's why I became so passionate about this, working with the subconscious mind and becoming a certified hypnotherapist. I mean, I'm also a subconscious transformation coach, but
Mm.
I really wanted to dig deeper into the subconscious, and so therefore I became a hypnotherapist, and it's an aspect with which I use to work with people.
Right. And I can imagine too, if you didn't work past that, then your business wouldn't have taken off. And if you have loved ones around you who are unwell, then you would be hesitant to take care of them as well. I mean, if you're not running a business, then with regards to your personal life, right? If you haven't,
Right, exactly.
and
It
you
would have
can,
been on a,
yeah,
yes.
sorry, yes, what would you say?
No, 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 that you're exactly right.
And that oh, I lost my train of thought over there.
Right.
And that if and you cannot reason this out, is that right? That is part of the subconscious.
No.
You cannot be talking to a friend and like wondering why is your business not taking off, why you're being so cold to people who you care and whom have fallen sick, and you're just sitting there wondering about this, but you cannot find the answer really unless you have done some subconscious shift. Is that right? Or
Yeah,
done some sort of
absolutely.
hypnosis work? Okay.
Absolutely. And the thing is also, I want to add to that, is that you may be very aware of the fact that you are stuck in perfectionism, or stuck in a pattern of self-sabotage or resistance.
Mm-hmm.
But even having that awareness doesn't change it, because you're not getting to the root cause of the behavior.
Ah, right. Right. That's a huge thing because a lot of us may not be aware. And then there's this level of people who are aware that, you know,
Right.
I have this problem. But then
Right.
it's a whole nother level if we're talking about the roots of it, you know. Okay.
Right. Because you
Okay.
can't think your way out of perfectionism. You can't think your way out of procrastination. You
Ah,
can't.
yes. And then we try to do that so much, like, oh, there must
Yes.
be lack of motivation. It must not be
Right.
my kind of thing. Okay, okay, I see that now. That is so painful.
And
So,
the
yes,
way
yes.
to, so the way to recognize whether you have a subconscious limiting beliefs that holding you back is those
Mm,
patterns of self-sabotage, like perfectionism, resistance. Also, if you look in your physical environment, if that doesn't change, if you have the same bank balance account every
mm,
single month, you know, and you're trying to build a business, or you fluctuate, you have money coming in and then it's going out, those kinds of patterns
mm-hmm.
are an indication that you are being dominated by some sort of story on a subconscious level.
Right. Or that you're attracting the same kind of people over and over again. Is that right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Right. So these repetitive patterns are the things that we should be looking out for. And if you're listening to this and you're going like, oh yes, I've been attracting the same kind of people, I've been doing the same thing, and you know nothing else works. Maybe this is one approach that you should consider. You know, Ilyse, can you tell us a little bit more about hypnosis? Because before, no, I have done some hypnosis with you, right? Ilyse has customized a recording for me about my own issues, and I listen to that over and over again every day. But for people who have no idea what is hypnosis, what would you say? What would you tell them? Like, what is hypnosis really?
Yes, well, hypnosis is basically an altered state of being. So it's like it, it's just hold on a sec. I want to get I'll tell you exactly what it is.
Okay. Does it involve a clock? No, no, it doesn't involve a clock
No,
moving. Like, no, no such
no.
pendulum swinging thing.
No, well, that's the preconception that people have. That's a preconception that people have is that, you know, that's actually a really good point to start, is that a lot of people, I believe this myself too, is that if someone has you under hypnosis, that, you know, they have control over your mind. And that's not true. All hypnosis is self-hypnosis. And at any given time, you have the ability, you're always aware of exactly what's going on,
Right.
and you have at any time to stop what
Mm,
is happening. Like you can stop being a participant. And
mm.
yes, I think there's this just the hypnosis with that swirling black and white thing, and they're waving on the watch. I mean, some people
Yeah.
do use that to put you in a hypnotic trance, but it's there's no such thing as someone having actually control over you. And getting back to the definition of hypnosis, it's simply a heightened state of suggestibility. And
Right.
all hypnosis is self hypnosis, and meaning, like I said before, that you're always in control.
Mm-hmm.
So even in a recording, so there's no such thing as someone or a recording of hypnosis having any control over you. And and that includes no matter how deep the state of hypnosis, you're always aware of what's going on. And like I said, you have the ability to stop it at any time.
Uh,
So
uh,
when
yeah.
you enter, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, no, go ahead. Go ahead. Yes, go
I
ahead.
was just going to say, when you enter into a hypnosis, your brain waves change into theta.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings you back to when you were a child between the ages of 1 and 7. In that place, your brain doesn't know, your subconscious doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination. And so you can tell your subconscious what you want it to believe, and you can use this to reprogram old stories and beliefs and that have been imprinted in your subconscious.
Right.
So this is the wonderful thing about it. And, you know, as I keep on mentioning, I harp about this a lot, but the subconscious mind controls 95% of our behavior.
Yeah.
And the way to reprogram it is through repetition, consistency, emotional imagery, and feeling.
Right.
So when your subconscious mind is in a heightened state of suggestibility, it will believe everything that it's told in a hypnosis session.
Hmm. You know, this is so powerful that it controls 90% of our 95% of our
Yes.
lives. I mean,
And the
like,
conscious mind, which means that the conscious mind, our thinking mind, you know, our
uh-huh.
conscious prefrontal cortex analytical mind only is influenced by 5%. It only influences 5% of our behavior. And that's, you know, those stats, scientific stats are mind-boggling. It's
No, it is.
mind-boggling
It
when you think
is.
about it.
It
Yes.
is. Because we go through every day of our lives 24/7 with our conscious mind. I mean, except for the time when you sleep, right? But a lot of, we think we are thinking all the time. And
Yes.
and we think we are making these conscious decisions all the time, as if we are coming from a clean slate of paper all the time, but we're not.
Yes, it's true.
And
Absolutely.
yeah, that's no, then that just like, then what happens the 95% of the time? It's like, so wow, it's just mind-boggling in that sense. But yes,
Yeah.
yeah, I was about to share that when you were doing the hypnosis with me, there was never one point in time at all that I felt unsafe or I felt lack of control. I felt very much in control. And when my rational mind tries to understand what's going on during that time, I don't really understand what's going on. I felt very in control, very aware, but at the same time, things are, I'm saying things are coming out of me in terms of what I want to say. And like, it's not really from me at the same time, but it is from me. I don't know how to explain that. It's such an odd feeling,
Yes,
actually.
I know what you're meaning. It opened, you know, the thing is that we're multidimensional beings,
Right.
and we're indoctrinated to believe that we are just our thinking minds and our 3D reality.
Yeah.
And what I would say is that in that experience that you just explained, you were experiencing another level of yourself, another dimension of yourself that you hadn't before. And that's why it's hard to describe it or explain it.
Yes. And that other dimension is the one that brought upon this behavior, because that's the 95% of it, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, still so mind, like, it's still so mind-boggling, like, now that I'm talking about it, you know.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's mind-boggling every time I say it. It controls 95% of our behavior. I mean, it
Mm-hmm,
still boggles my mind when I
mm-hmm,
say it.
mm-hmm. And I think, like, you know, you have had experience with like PTSD, panic attacks,
Mm-hmm.
depression, anxiety. You've been through a lot yourself, at least, and that's why I think you understand when people talk about these kind of feelings. Does it help with all these things I've mentioned? Hypnosis?
Yes, it does. I think that also, you mean for myself or in working with people?
Working with people.
Working with people, yes, absolutely. I mean, I have suffered severe trauma as a child,
Mm.
and as a consequence, like severe violent trauma,
Mm-hmm.
prolonged on a daily basis, like lots of domestic violence that was
Mm-hmm.
directed toward me. And it took me a very long time to get to a place where I'm able to really thrive in my life. And I used to suffer from really debilitating severe anxiety and depression and PTSD. And most days I couldn't even get out of bed.
Mm.
And it wasn't until I started meditation, which
Mm-hmm.
is very powerful, a meditation practice, which I still have. I
Mm-hmm.
practice today. And meditation also changes the brain physiologically, that I was able to find my way out of trauma. Because what PTSD and trauma is that you're living in your survival part of your brain, your amygdala, and the way you perceive the world is very black and white.
I
And you
see.
can't, there's no gray area. Things and situations and people and your perceptions, everything you perceive is either black or white. And that comes from a purely survival way of living. And so what happened is that the more I meditated, and it really didn't take that long, just a matter of 4 months before I really started to see big shifts and changes. I used to wake up every morning with panic attacks, and that was normal to me. And after 4 months of meditation, they stopped. And it was only when it stopped that I was shocked, that I realized I was waking up every single morning with a panic attack where I was hyperventilating. It was so normal to me. And it was only, I noticed when it was gone.
So you
That
didn't think it was abnormal?
I just was the normal way that I had always been.
And you've
But
never really given it much thought then?
no, because it's like,
Okay.
if it's how you've always been, you don't give it a second thought, really.
Yes.
It
Okay.
sounds outrageous, but it's true. And it was only when it stopped that I realized, like, oh my goodness, I used to wake up every morning like that. And so what meditation does is it also helps to open up that part of your brain, and it's connected to the subconscious, and it anchors you more into your body, and it gets you out of your survival part of your brain and more into your prefrontal cortex, right? Where you make decisions from a place of logic as opposed to fear and scarcity and survival. So my whole life changed because I started making decisions from a place of logic and intuition as opposed from survival and scarcity and fear, which I had done all of my life up until that point. And then, from that point, I became a transformation coach because I had gone through so much change, and I found out I was very gifted as a coach. And then I became really fascinated with the subconscious mind because I had some powerful experiences with the subconscious mind, and then really just went full on. And so to where I became a specialized in subconscious and created my own methodology called the subconscious shift method, which you experienced.
Yes,
So,
you are a really gifted coach.
yeah.
I will tell people who are listening to this, because there are times that I forgot why, like even after the hypnosis, I think it was a few months before we followed up, and after that, I forgot some of the things that I've uncovered at the same time, but Ilyse reminded me of why this is still happening, and I was like, wow, yes, that's true. I see it now again. Like I didn't see it the first time around or something. I cannot remember, but it felt like when you showed me the second time, like, oh, it makes so much sense again, and so that's and you don't need to spend a lot of time with me. That's the thing. It's like you just need 10 minutes and you can tell me.
Yeah, yes. Well, you mean the follow-up calls that we
Yes, the
had?
follow-up calls.
Yeah.
But back to your the events that has happened in your life. So I was wondering, like, since you're going through so many things, but what got you into meditation to begin with? Like, how did you get into an active mode of wanting to do meditation, especially when you're coming from a place of you do not want to do anything, you were just lying on the bed?
Yes, well, that's a great question. I got, well, I love YouTube, right? And I don't know about you, but I love going down the YouTube rabbit hole.
Oh yes,
You
of
can
course.
learn
So many
so much.
suggestions. Yeah.
I know, right? And one thing leads to another and leads to another. And I came across this woman who's a spiritual teacher. Her name is Gabby Bernstein, and she actually lives in my neighborhood.
Oh.
And she just spoke to me like on a very deep level. It was like she was speaking to my soul. You know how you come across someone and they just speak to you.
Yes.
And the good thing is that she had a lot of videos online. She had a lot of content, and I just went through her content. But the foundation of her teachings was meditation. And even though I had tried meditation several times over and over and over again, and I just couldn't do it, I just gave up on it because I just couldn't stop my mind. But there are various kinds of meditation, and the meditation that I learned was Transcendental Meditation, which, you know, you can use a mantra to shut the mind down. And so I just became very inspired, and I went to a center in Manhattan, although you don't have to go to a physical place. I mean, Gabby Bernstein actually has a introduction to meditation on YouTube, which she goes through all the different kinds of meditations. I will maybe send the link to you so that people can have access to it, those that are interested.
Definitely. Okay.
And I went to this center, and I was really intrigued, and I took on the practice twice a day. So I did Transcendental Meditation, where you do 20 minutes twice a day. And they said, recommended to do it for at least 4 months. And I did devotedly every day, and I still do it. And it just, the shifts, and it's not like it's something that happens overnight, but it's really subtle, but so powerful. And I found that the most significant things in life come from the most simple of tasks or practices. And I think it's really beautiful and very powerful. And so that's how I got into meditation. Was, you know, I was lying in bed so depressed, falling into a YouTube rabbit hole. Yeah. You know, I really believe, you know, on a spiritual level, I believe that we're always guided. We're really always guided. And it's always hard for me to ask for help, even if it's from my higher self. It's extremely hard for me to ask for help. But I think when one asks for help, whatever you believe in, whether it's your higher self or God or source or the universe, whatever you want to believe in, higher energy, whatever, you will always be guided. You will always get the answer.
I truly believe that. I do.
Yeah.
And so then, so now do you do meditation? So you do meditation still, I know, and you do a combination of hypnosis and meditation for yourself.
Yes, I do. Meditation is still my main practice. I do hypnosis, but not technically like what I do with hypnosis personally is that I play a tape before I go to sleep and just when I wake up in the morning. So those who do self-hypnosis, or if you have a self-hypnosis tape, the best and most effective time for it to be fully absorbed by the subconscious mind, because it doesn't know the difference between reality and imagination, is when it's in a theta brainwave state. And you're in a theta brainwave state 20 minutes before you fall asleep and 20 minutes when you wake up. And so that's how I am using hypnosis. I just have my phone and I let it record just when I wake up and just as I'm falling asleep.
Right. No, I have to tell our listeners this. So I will listen to Ilyse's hypnosis recording, and then I think it's about 20 minutes, and then sometimes I would fall asleep, and then I told Ilyse one day that I will just wake up right when the hypnosis ends, and it's just so. It's just so amazing, and it amazes me still every day that it happens. Like I'll fall asleep, and there will be no alarm clock, nothing. And then I'll wake up right after the hypnosis ends, as if I'm still listening. You know, I'm still listening even though I have fallen asleep.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's so cool, and that must be the theta brainwave that you're talking about, right?
Yeah, and it's still effective. Like even if you don't fall asleep, it's still going to be effective because you're in that brainwave state. But it's great that you fall asleep. Some people ask, well, does it still work if you're sleeping? And absolutely yes. Because the subconscious mind never shuts down. It's always listening, even when you're in sleep.
It never shuts down. It's 95% of our actions, and it can be, and it doesn't know whether it's real or unreal.
That's right. Well, real or imagination.
Oh, yes. Real or imagination. Okay. Wow, that's so huge. I was wondering, some of the stress related, not diseases, some issues that we're looking at are like, of course, the panic attacks that you've been through, depression, PTSD, anxiety. What about like chronic aches and pains? Does hypnosis help with that too?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, it does.
And for things like someone with someone with migraine, let's say, because a lot of people
Yeah.
have migraine, it
Right.
does too.
Yeah, absolutely. It helps with all those things. Those aren't specific things that I help people with. Like I don't help
Mm-hmm.
people with specific body pain
Mm-hmm.
issues,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but absolutely it helps. There's all kinds of scientific documentation on that.
Right. And for people who so let's just say if somebody who is really stressed, like they don't have all these things that we just talked about, like, but they're feeling really stressed out. And is there anything you would recommend for them? Like they're anxious about their day to day and, just stressed out in general. Is there a hypnosis that
Yeah. Well, is there a hypnosis? I'm sure you can go on YouTube and find stress relieving hypnosis. Absolutely. There are some things I could, help tactically, points that I could give, but I mean, there's all kinds of hypnosis out there for various kinds of things. I created a hypnosis for anxiety
yes, yes,
for
yes,
your
yes,
audience, for your audience.
yes, yes.
And it comes with a 7-step to process for making friends with uncertainty, because there's just so much uncertainty in the world right now, and
Mm,
it causes us to be so vulnerable.
it
And
does.
I wanted to read this Viktor Frankl quote: "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way." And that is again by Viktor Frankl, one of his most famous quotes. And so, this pandemic that we're living through, and this incredible sense of uncertainty, the way that we can ground and anchor ourselves is to really be aware of the fact that we have the power to choose how we want to feel, to choose how we want to perceive, to choose what we want to listen to, and what we don't want to expose ourselves to, right? And
We
I
have,
think
yeah.
that hypnosis will definitely help to relieve anxiety, but also I think accepting the fact that you have no control over the situation,
Mm,
right? And then
mm.
have a deep understanding as to what you do have control over and how you are going to respond.
That is so beautiful. And, a lot of times we forget that we have this control. We forget that we have that ability to choose. We cannot choose the situation that we want to be in, but we certainly can choose our approach and our beliefs and our attitude towards it. And what can we do with that after?
Yes, absolutely. When we find ourselves trying to control or resist things, the best thing is just to pause and
Mm,
accept the fact that, we don't have any control over this situation that
mm-hmm,
we're in, right? Or what happens next. And
mm.
to surrender again and again and again. And what surrender really means is just to release the emotions that we're holding.
Oh, I like that. I like that because a lot of times, when people say surrender, we don't really know what it means. But I mean, we have
Exactly.
we, we have an idea what it means. But yeah.
Exactly. But we don't really know. That's true. And that's why I think it's important to define what that is.
Mm. That it's completely safe to feel whatever you feel, and it's completely fine to feel whatever you feel.
Yeah. And it's most important to feel what you feel and then not get caught there, right? Because when you feel it, you transmute those feelings.
Mm. Mm.
So you feel it, and then it releases. Surrender.
Mm.
Because if you don't allow yourself to feel it, then it becomes repressed in your body.
Yes, yes. And you're trying to ignore. And if something's trying to get your attention and you're ignoring it, it's like a child wanting to ask a question.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. And
They will stop. Yeah.
yeah, they're relentless in that, you know.
Mhm. But it's a beautiful practice. And, you can't think clearly when you're freaking out or you're anxious. And so
Mm.
that kind of practice of surrender leads to just clarity and peace of mind.
Mm. I love that. I think people are going to benefit a lot from just the simple act of surrendering alone. And I understand there can be so much frustration. You cannot plan for anything right now, right? So,
No, no.
but when you're in that place of frustration and and you do not acknowledge that, and you just, and then you would just go day in day out being frustrated. That's what I
Yeah.
noticed. Like if you do not acknowledge it, then it's just there every day.
Right. It becomes a default habit.
Yes, it becomes a default habit. Like this is how
Mhm.
I react then.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful, Elise. So where can people find you? Are you on Instagram? Are you on Facebook?
Yes, I'm on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
Ilyse Soutine, but I have the offer that I'd like to offer to your audience,
Mm-hmm.
anyone who would like the free hypnosis and workbook, they can go to mindpeacenow.com
Mm-hmm.
and you will get a download to, I think it's a 20-minute hypnosis
Mm-hmm.
for anxiety. I've gotten so much wonderful feedback from that. It really helps to calm a lot of people down. And
Mm-hmm.
you can listen to it whenever you're kind of anxious or freaking out, or listen to it on a consistent basis,
That's so.
preferably before you go to sleep or when you wake up, but
Mm-hmm.
whenever or as much you can.
Mm-hmm.
And it also comes with a workbook where you can just kind of work through things. It's a 7-step process to make friends with uncertainty
That's nice.
so
That's
that we
nice.
don't resist it. So it's my honor to honor that to your audience. It's mindpeacenow.com. And if anyone has any questions about anything, I'm always happy to engage with audience members. So you can just DM me through social media, whether it's Facebook or Instagram.
That's nice. I'm going to put up the Instagram, the Facebook link, as well as the link to your anxiety hypnosis and workbook. I think people so need it right now.
Yes, yes, it will. I mean, like we talked about, when you get to the root of the subconscious of your anxiety, it will really help to shift. It becomes a haven, a safe place for you that you automatically just shift in your own body. So it's a very powerful and helpful tool.
Oh, and this hypnosis does that for you. Gets to the root problem. Okay, that's so great. Okay. Oh, right. Elise, thank you so much for coming on. It's such an
Thank you.
honor.
It's such an honor to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And take care. And we will talk soon.